Okay, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started with our webinar this week. So this week we're going to be talking about all things journal entries. This is one of the questions that we ask on interviews here at Fourlane for people who are applying for jobs. We say, if a client were to ask you, when should I use a journal entry? Tell me when I would use a journal entry. How would you respond to that? And the answer we're looking for is not very often. That's the answer we're really looking for. Journal entries are very limited in the amount of data you can put on them, so they shouldn't be used often because the less data you put in, the less data we can report on, right? So, all right, let's dive in. Before I get off, let me get off my soapbox for a second. All right, just a reminder about who we are here at Fourlane and what makes us unique. So we do most things QuickBooks, right? Everything QuickBooks. Most of our clients are in QuickBooks, online or desktop. However, we do also offer consulting services around NetSuite, Xero, and Acumatica. We take it a love it or list it approach. You could stay in the product if you want to, and we can fix it for those failed implementations, or we can go ahead and make the switch and move into QuickBooks. We're ERP consultants maximizing QuickBooks. People think, like, there's no way. Did you guys see that news about, the Bitcoin company that was using QuickBooks? And people say, there's no way that company is using QuickBooks. Well, we're one of those reasons why. We're experts in the accounting, so we know the debits and credits and we know the systems, and then we will help you get through that change. Okay, you guys know I like to spend most of my time in product. So what we're going to be going over today is when to use journal entries, again, very rarely, how to manually enter a journal entry, how to do memorized transactions around journal entries and why maybe, and then some tips around them. So as always, let me go ahead and dive in product. So ways that we see, so let me just go ahead and open up a journal entry here. So you can come up to company and then go down to make general journal entries. Of course, you could save this and put it on your, right, you can come to view and say, add this to my icon bar and stuff like that. So down below here, it does give you a list of recent journal entries. You can also say hide the list so you can see the screen better. I know I'm zoomed in a little bit. It's just so that you can see better on your side. So on a journal entry, as you can see, we have limited fields. Right? When I go look at a check, I have all these other fields. I can do the expenses tab. I can do the items tab. I can add in, customer and class. I can, put in quantities, cost, items, period. So in journal entry, you're limited in what you can enter, right? We can't right-click and customize columns. We cannot add in additional columns. So the things that we can do, we can hit an account. So immediately, when we think about that, we think, oh, if I need to hit an item, whether it be a service item for project costing, inventory part because it's a return from a client, anything like that, I cannot use a journal entry. I should not be using a journal entry. Okay. You can see over here that we can put a name in, right? And it can be a customer job, so I can't associate something with a customer job. I can also put it to a vendor. I can put it to an employee and other names. You can choose anything from any of the names list here. But that's different than, again, on a check when I say I'm paying this to a vendor of, 401k administrator. And then I'm also doing it to a customer job of whoever the job is. So I can do it to two different lines. So when I run a report, like custom transaction detail report, just push it OK. We have name here, right, which shows the job name first, if there is a job name. But you can also customize this and add in source name. Right, so I actually have two name fields. Let's find the check. Check that also has a job on it. So Let me sort by checks. Sort by transaction type. And any of them have jobs on them. Okay, here we go, right here. Bill with vendor name under source name and customer name under name. Okay, so you can have two different ones. You can't do that on a journal entry. The classes, obviously you can have classes associated with, and just that's going to be the exact same as a transaction. I don't have sales rep here. I don't have, PO number. I don't have dates, extra dates. I have one date. I don't have the ship date or the, date received and all these other things. Okay. So when should we use a journal entry? So a journal entry should be used when you're doing something like depreciation, right? Or we're doing any kind of movement, maybe on prepaids, right? Prepaid insurance. So we're going to post a journal entry every month to amortize out of the prepaids and hit the expense account. But what it really comes down to is we should do journal entries when I do not need to hit an item. If I am not doing job costing. It's very rare that we would do journal entry job costing. Sometimes people do it for payroll, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the caveats with that here in a minute. So it's more like when should I not? The answer should be, is there another transaction that would serve me better because I want to put more data in the system? And if the answer is yes, then we should not be putting in a journal entry. So GL movement only. The other time that we'll see journal entries put in the system is fixing for things that happened in a previous period. Again, if it has to do with inventory parts, we should be doing a credit memo and then a reissue. So like, let's say we sold a customer, we put on the invoice the wrong part. Customer calls us and says, hey, you guys shipped me the right part, but you put on the invoice the wrong part. Then we should do a credit memo in the current period, returning the wrong part back into our inventory because we actually didn't ship that wrong part. And then we should do an invoice again in the current period, sending the correct part back out. Right? That should not happen on a journal entry because it will not pick up the inventory effect. We have to do that on a transaction. Same thing if a vendor. Hey, vendor, we received, you shipped us these parts. You said it was this, but then after we actually opened the box, it was the wrong parts type thing or whatever it is. Obviously, on the vendor side, we would actually be sending it back to them, but you understand what I'm saying. So let's go through how to put in a journal entry. So I can come in here. Up top, we've got the main tab, and we've got the reports tab, previous, next, find new, all the same things. You can create copies, and we're going to talk about memorizing in a second. You can reverse journal entries, which is awesome to have that little reversal. I use that all the time. What it does is it just reverses on the next day, and it'll reverse the debits and credits for what you have on here. You can attach files in here. If you're creating journal entries, right? Because journal entries are where people push through data in our system. It's the place where we should feel the most insecure, right? Because it doesn't have other places to double check, right? Like in an invoice, you have to receive a payment to relieve that balance. There's no connected activity with the journal entry to make sure that the whole thing, the whole workflow was followed through. So attaching documents to a journal entry is a very big deal because then you always have backup, whether it's a staff member saying like, if you put a journal entry in 6 months ago, you don't remember why or how, you can open up that attachment and see the calculations in Excel of what you did. Then we have the show list, which again was, journal entries that were recent. We also have send journal entries in here. I get a lot of questions about this. So the reason that you see this here is because I'm in the Accountants Edition. And as in the Accountants Edition, I have the ability to go into my client's file and create journal entries and send them back. The idea is I just did your tax return, which Fourlane doesn't do tax returns, but I just reconciled your books, and these are the journal entries that you need to have in your system in order for you to tie out to your tax return. Now, the problem I have with this is a lot of times it's just forcing balances, right? Oh, your inventory doesn't tie out to your inventory valuation summary. You know, your inventory balance sheet doesn't tie to your inventory valuation summary. I'm just going to make an adjustment. No, that's not how this works. That's not helpful. I need to fix it. So this is why I don't like journal entries. But anyway, you see this here. When we are importing journal entries for clients, if there is a reason we're importing them, we're not doing it this way. You're using a third-party tool. And there is no in-product importing of journal entries besides an IAF file. Okay, so then coming down below here, we've got the date. This is going to be your posting date, your entry number. If this is an adjusting entry or not, what that means is that when I come in and I look at my accountant and taxes here, I have my adjusting journal entries report versus I guess what the alternative is just journal entries. Again, my hope would be that we are doing only adjusting journal entries type thing. Okay, so I don't know that that's an effective field for some of my clients. I can come in, I can choose the account that we're adjusting. All right, so like let's say we're writing off some bad debt, which again, we have a process that'll do this using a transaction because potentially I want the sales rep to be affected by the bad debt that I'm writing off. Right? But let's just pretend we're going to do it in here. So I have the accounts receivable account. I'm going to write off a balance in here of, let me go find one real quick. So in accounts receivable, if you're doing that, you have to, so $17,250 for big city store. You have to choose the customer, right? I can't just leave it blank. So I'll try to leave it blank. I'm going to write off $10,000 for some reason for this client. I'm going to say bad debt write-off. Okay, I'm not going to put a name just so you can see what happens. Put in the class, and we're writing it off against revenue, sales income. Or we probably should have a bad debt expense, right, based on what I was saying. But anyway, sales income. Okay, automatic full systems. And I say save. Now QuickBooks is going to give me an error. And it's going to say, hey, wait. Transactions to accounts receivable must include a customer. So I can say, okay. Come back in and put the customer. So you have to put a customer name in here in order to put anything to accounts receivable. A customer name. Not a vendor name, not an other name, not an employee name, customer name. Okay. Now the other thing is, well, let me save this. I'll get to the other things. Okay, so when I save this, now it wrote off $10,000 against this customer. When I go into customers and I say receive payments for big city store, I have this $17,000 here, but I also have $10,000 of credits that I can apply. Okay. I can also see, when I go look at the customer center, that I have a journal entry in there. So I will see the journal entry in the customer center. Okay. When I go look at the job report, job profitability detail for big city store, see here I have $10,000 against revenue with no item. So that's what it looks like on reports when you don't have those items, but you want, maybe you should have. Okay, so that's entering a journal entry. We do have people who memorize transactions, memorize journal entries, and so they'll memorize it, they'll add it to a reminders list, right? And they'll say, like never enter it. So if it's something like your prepaids and it's automatic, you want it to post automatically, throw it in here and have it automated. If it's something like payroll, what you can do is you can memorize it and then you can edit, right? So when you memorize it, so add it to my reminders list and I say never, okay. Then when I go to my reminders list, my memorized transaction list, on my big city store, I double click on it. It opens up the transaction not saved. I change the date to whatever date, change the amount. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing this all the time. And then I can say save on the transaction. Okay. All right. So memorized transactions are helpful when it comes to journal entries. All right, some things to make sure that you know. When I come in to make a journal entry, so we talked about one already. Let's go ahead and see the error, though. So we're going to say accounts receivable, and I'm going to put in a credit of $10,000, and I'm going to put it to a different client name this time, lost wages, and sales income. Then I want to go in and put in accounts payable. $5,000. This time I have to choose a vendor, even though it lets you choose a customer, like it lets you select it. You're going to get in there and get an error. And then I'm going to say this is going against whatever cost of goods sold. Save. Oh, wait. You cannot use more than one AR or AP account in the same transaction. Okay. So AP and AR can't be on the same transaction. So let's back that up and say, okay, well, what about accounts receivable? And I'm going to put it to a customer job this time and say save. No, you cannot use more than one AR and AP. Let's try to put it to the same one. Say save. You cannot use more than one AR and AP. But you cannot have accounts receivable on two separate lines on a journal entry. Weird, nuance, cool, we know about it. It is what it is. If this is a problem, there are other ways to put data in the system, like using batch enter transactions, right? So maybe we enter them all as deposits, because a deposit has some more fields, but not that many more fields than a journal entry. All right, so if I'm just trying to get a whole bunch of stuff in the system, maybe we use deposits instead. Okay, so that's one weird nuance, is knowing that we cannot have AR and AP on the same transaction. If you're struggling with it, let us know. We can figure out what the workflow should be. Again, if anybody's day-to-day workflow includes journal entries, we usually are talking to our clients about how not to do that. Now, of course, it's coming from some app that you connect to, and that's the only way they connect in, understood. But even then, that app then is limiting the reporting you can do in your QuickBooks file. Okay, so let's talk about another weird nuance. So I am going to go ahead and put in here, we're going to do some cost of goods sold allocations to jobs. So if I put in here $500, and I'm going to put in the name of test 1. You have to set up, if you add something here, you can't just say quick add, right? Because you have to choose what it is, customer. Okay, test 1, and then cost of goods sold. And we're going to say $800, test 2. Quick add, customer, sorry, you still have to choose. Even if I choose quick add, you have to choose if it's customer vendor. And I'm going to say cost of goods sold, $1,300, and it's going to be test 3, quick add, customer, okay. And then I'm going to say cost of goods sold, $5,000, and not put a name in there. And then the offset is going to be, I don't really care. It could be cost of goods sold, probably care. So when I, and actually let me go ahead and add in, well, I'll just save that. So let me go ahead and save this. Okay, so none of this will have item allocations at all. But if I go in and look at my job profitability report, and I get down here to the test 1, 2, 3. So 800, right? See that 800? Yep. See that expense? 1,300. Yep. I see that expense. 1,300. Now what happened on test 1? It has negative 2,000. And it should say 500. So what happened? This is one of those QuickBooks nuances. If I double click in here, notice what it did. It allocated the 500 and it allocated the 5,000 and it allocated the negative 7,600. Right? So it took the first job on the list and anything that didn't have a job, so that job, because that amount got associated with the job, but anything that didn't have an amount also got associated with that job. Those weird little nuances, right? So how do we fix it? So the way to fix that is you come in here and you insert or edit, insert a line, or you can hit Control Insert on the top line of the transaction. Because now, when I say save, and I come in here to my report, the details only pick up the 500. But the summary also only picks up the 500. So what QuickBooks does is whatever job is on the first line, then it'll pick up that customer job on every other line that does not have one. Okay, so things to be aware of. The way to combat that is just insert a line. So if you're doing anything job costing through journal entries, it is best practice to get in the habit to just insert a line on every one. Insert a blank line and then put in your data. Also helpful when you memorize. So remember to do that. Okay. Okay. So, I'm sitting here telling all the reasons why not to use a journal entry. So what's an alternative? So one of the alternatives that we do frequently is we talk about $0 transactions. Because what is a journal entry? When you go in and you look at a journal entry, it is a debit and credit to an account, which that's all transactions are, right? They might hit other things, but it's just a debit and credit to an account at the end of the day. An invoice is debiting AR, crediting, sales revenue, but it's doing it through an item. So you also have an item. You also have a sales rep. You also have all the other fields you can track on there. So a lot of times when we're trying to get clients in using their data more effectively, right, being able to report better on their data, we will go about it a different way. So we say, okay, I need to run this through an item. I'm just trying to do an in and out. So how can I do that? So one way would be writing a check. So sometimes in client files, we'll create a bank account that's called, flow through or, $0 or whatever it is that we want to call it. Never should there be any transactions with amounts in this bank account. And we will come down below here. You can do it on the expenses tab or you can do it on the items tab. And we will do pluses and minuses. So in that example, right, if the vendor sent us the wrong thing or whatever it is, I can come in here, and I'm sorry it's so zoomed in. Again, that's because I'm trying to make it so you guys can see it good on your screen, which, meaning not too small on your screen, but zoomed in also means that I can only see so much on so many lines. So here's the item. I say I'm going to have, positive 10 for the correct one, amount of $450 to customer job, big city store, and put in the class and all the other things. And then I come down to the next line and I say, okay, this part, it was negative 10. Now, of course, these amounts matter because I want it to be a $0 bill, so I have to change it to negative $4.50 so that it's a $0 bill. So I can put in the customer job, I can put in the items, I can right-click and add columns. It doesn't report on this very well, but I can right-click and customize columns and add the sales rep. I can add in custom fields, right? So I can put a lot more on this transaction. And at the end of the day, when I say save, lot numbers turned on, and I go to reports and transaction journal, I mean, it's just debits and credits, right? It's just debits and credits. It must be adjusting. It's doing an additional adjustment to this item because it's an inventory part, so I'd have to go in and look at why it's doing that. But usually it's because it would take it negative or something along those lines. But we'd have to go look at why. There's several reasons why for another day. But you can see how the effect, right, of using a transaction and just doing it as a $0 transaction is still the same. You have more fields that you can put stuff into, though. So therefore, the reporting would be way better. So if I go look at Big City Store, did I choose that on both of them? Let me make sure I chose it on both of them. Nope, I didn't choose it on this one. Big City Store, right? And say save again. Now when I go look at Big City Store, job profitability detail, those will fall in here. Oh, it's an inventory part, so it's not going to fall in yet, right? So, shouldn't have chosen an inventory part for this. But okay, so let's go back. Let's go back. Let me change that real quick, because an inventory part is just going back into inventory. Inventory part doesn't hit the job until we invoice it, right? That's why that does that. Let me go back real quick and change it to a service item, just so it has the same effect. It's saying that this service item is not set up for expenses, but okay, let's just see. Big City, these poor demo files of mine, I just have used them all over the place. And I'm going to make this a bigger amount so it's easier to see. So maybe 4,500. And let's make sure where these are going. Installation labor is going to installation service versus repair service. Perfect. Okay. So 4,500, and then I'm going to say installation repair. Okay. Okay. Yeah. And say negative 4,500 to Big City Store. Save. Yes. Now when I come in here, right, I can see the 4,500 got put in there and taken out of here. Now, if I had originally put it in repair, then it would have been a net 0 in repair, right? I would have seen the 4,500 go in whenever I did it incorrectly back 2 weeks ago, and then I would see it come out. Now, so it would be a net of 0, but then put into the correct item. Okay, can't do that with the journal entry. All right, guys, that's all I really have for you today. I don't have time. I can't hang out for questions, but I did want to let you know what's coming up. Next week, we are going to be talking about item categories. This is a new feature in QuickBooks Enterprise. If you have not seen it yet, it is amazing. You can get rid of header and sub items, which would be so cool to do, because header and sub items are so frustrating because the header item can actually hold a quantity and you don't want it to, right? So item categories allows you to do that, and we're going to be talking about that next week. If you guys have other things that you want to learn, please definitely chime in. Let me know what other kind of courses y'all would want. But I hope you're able to learn something today, and that's all I've got for you. All right, everybody have a great week.